want us to talk about. Let's talk about the BBC commissioned film, Gaza, Doctors Under Attack, since the BBC refuses to do so. Gaza, Doctors Under Attack was commissioned by the BBC, but when their own forensic investigation revealed a relentless timeline of horrors perpetrated by the Israeli forces on the healthcare system and the medics in Gaza, the BBC hid their evidence and buried the programme. The BBC film documents how Israel has been systematically targeting hospitals and medics in every one of the 36 hospitals in Gaza in a deliberate and set pattern of attacks. First, bombardment, followed by besiegement, then raids by tanks and bulldozers. Medical workers are detained and taken away, tortured and in some cases executed. Then, when the hospital has been rendered non-functional, the Israeli forces move on to target the next hospital. Dismantling a hospital affects the population in the immediate time frame. The slaughter and injuries to the medical profession affects the population in the long term. It affects their entire future. The medics abducted by Israel are taken to black sites where they are systematically tortured and interrogated. Their accounts, verified by the BBC from an Israeli whistleblower, evidence the torture, mistreatment, rape and sexual abuse of Palestinian hostages. There is horrific BBC testimony and evidence that the Israeli whistleblower gave that Israeli doctors would perform medical procedures on injured Palestinians without anaesthetic and inform them that they are, and I BBC quote you are a criminal and you have to die. The programme documents the targeting of many medical personnel's families in their homes. Dr. Khalid Hamouda discusses the direct attack on his family home, killing 10 members of his family. And this was immediately followed by a further airstrike on the house where his injured relatives were taken to. There are also so many doctors and medics who gave similar testimony to the BBC in this programme that the weight of this evidence should be presented to the ICC. But instead, the BBC sought to bury it. Since February this year, the BBC has withheld and suppressed this vital evidence of Israeli war crimes. The BBC cited impartiality concerns, yet the BBC has never issued a warning or hesitated to air the never-ending propaganda that the Israeli war machine has disseminated. In June, the Centre for Media Monitoring produced a damning report on the BBC, criticising the BBC's widespread institutional failures on its reporting in Gaza, marginalising Palestinian suffering while amplifying Israeli narratives. The findings show that the BBC's editorial choices consistently undermine impartiality and distorted the reality of the conflict. The BBC often erased historical context, with just 0.5% of articles referencing Israel's widely criticised military doctrines and genocidal rhetoric. Israelis taken at gunpoint are referred to as hostages, while Palestinians taken at gunpoint are prisoners. The term massacre appeared 18 times more often for Israeli victims than was ever used, and it was never once used as a headline in reference to a Palestinian. The BBC is not a trusted agent. The BBC has systematically underplayed the suffering of the Palestinian people and gives unquestioning expression to an Israeli propaganda machine. The BBC does not show a willingness to present the story of the Palestinian people's suffering. So we must redouble Our efforts to make Palestinian stories a part of our daily lives, our hourly discussions. We must not stop because the people of Palestine do not have the luxury of stopping. They must fight to survive every minute of every day. And I want to finish by reading a poem I wrote after registering another complaint to the BBC for their bias in reporting. It's in the form of a letter. Dear Palestine, as I sit keyboard worrying my way through another angry letter about dead children, I know you have lost another child, maybe 2 or 3 or more by the time I find the first full stop. Full stop. I know your mothers have begged for food to feed their starving children who remain, who battle to hold on to fragile tent flaps to keep out the driving heat or the buzzing killing drones. I know your dads have pulled at flattened walls and ceilings and fallen roofs with hands and poles and sticks to find their dead, to find their flattened families, their trapped neighbours, their bombed out lives. I know your grandparents have lost everything, family, home, memories, hope, and they worry about the burden they've become in a world that is only struggle and pain. Gone are the olive trees, the universities, the hospitals, the doctors, the roads, the paths, the fathers, the mothers, and the children, and the children, and the children, and the children. Dear Palestine, I am sorry for your loss.